So on a macro level, I've been tracking this WXY structure to the upside, where I'm looking out for this Y wave to tap into its typical region between 1 to 1.226 of the W wave, and that region sits between $5.57.27 to $11.22. And here you can see that we haven't tapped into this region yet, and so it looks like we are still within this Y wave, which is made up of 5 waves, where if I was to draw that in, this would be the wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3, 4, and 5. And of course, I've been tracking this 5th wave to the upside. And for this structure to be valid, what we need is for the 3rd wave to reach the minimum retrace level, which is the 1.618 level of the wave 1. So if I bring in the fib tool and bring that into the wave 2 at 38.23 cents. So if I bring this down to the wrap position and zoom in, and so here you can see that the 1.618 level sits at $2.59.4, which we ended up exceeding, given that the 3rd wave ended up topping off at $3.40. And since then, we then saw this corrective move play out, where we ended up bottoming out at $1.61.34, where we had a WXY structure that formed to complete this 4th wave. So what I'll do very quickly is check to see if this Y wave here met the typical range between 1 to 1.226 of the wave W. If I bring this down to the wrap position, so here you can see that region sits between $1.33.93 to $1.56.22, which we ended up falling short of. However, we met the minimum requirement, which is the 61.8% retrace level at $2. And so this WXY structure is still valid despite not tapping into this region here. And that then completed this 4th wave, which means that we are now within this move to the upside to complete this 5th wave, where this 5th wave has the potential to reach anywhere between 1.236 to 1.618 of the wave 4, which is this region that I set out previously, as you guys know. So if I just draw this fib tool in, and you can see that that region sits between $4.05 to $5.39. And so within this 5th wave, I've been tracking this 5-wave structure, where it looks like we are still within this 3rd wave, given that the 3rd wave hasn't reached the minimum retrace level, which is the 1.618 level of the wave 1. So again, if I bring in the fib tool and bring that down to the wave 2 at $1.90.83. So if I bring this up to the right position, and here you can see that the 1.618 level sits at $4.27.2, which we haven't reached, which tells me that we are still within this 3rd wave to the upside, despite this corrective move that we've witnessed. So if I go down to the 4-hour chart, what you can see is in my previous update, I talked about how it was possible that within this 5th wave, we had an expanding ending diagonal structure that was forming. But given the fact that we ended up breaching past the lower trend line, whilst at the same time breaching past the local low at $3.34.39, that then invalidated this structure here, which then meant that we ended up completing the 3rd wave at $3.66. And we have this move to the downside that's forming right now to complete the 4th wave, followed by a final push to the upside to complete the 5th wave, which in turn would then complete this 3rd wave here. So if I remove some of this, since we no longer need it, and I'll remove this target also, and I'll remove this, and I'll remove this. And here within this 4th wave, it looks like we had a WXY structure that formed, where this Y wave ended up exceeding its typical range between 1 to 1.226, given the fact that we were in a bearish environment, because people were shorting the market and taking profits, whilst at the same time you had people panicking and selling their position. So if I bring in the fib tool and bring this to over here at $3.64.95. And so here you can see that the typical range for that Y wave would be this region here between $3.26.32 to $3.33.37. But we ended up exceeding that range, where we ended up bottoming out, or I say bottoming out, we need further confirmation, but we ended up reaching this level at $2.95.55. And this Y wave was made up of 5 waves, where we had a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so I will be looking out for this structure to be complete, and then we see that reversal to your upside, where we can then begin to track the wave 5. But again, we need further confirmation that we ended up completing this fourth wave. And so one key region that we need to be keeping an eye on would be the 1 to 1.226 retracer level of this structure here, where I'm currently looking at for a double XY structure to form, where we end up exceeding the local top. And that local top sits at $3.26.51. So if I draw in the fib tool, and here we ended up reaching $2.99.81. So if I bring this up to the right position, so you can see that that region sits between $3.31.22 to $3.39.1. And so if we end up getting rejected in this region, then it's possible that we have a bigger structure to the downside that's forming, made up of a double XY structure, where this will form the W wave, this will be the X wave, and then we'll see that final push to the downside to complete that Y wave. However, if we were to exceed the 1.226 level and retrace towards the 1.618 level, then it's possible that rather than a double XY structure forming, instead what we are forming is a 5-wave move, where this would be the wave 1, this would be the wave 2, and then we have the wave 3, 4, and 5 play out, where that 5th wave has the potential to breach past this level here, whilst at the same time tapping into this region here, which is the 5th wave target. And that would then complete the wave 3. But at the same time, it's possible that we have the wave 3 form, where that wave 3 forms within this region, and then we have the wave 4 that plays out in the days or weeks to come, followed by a final push to the upside to then complete the 5th wave, where that 5th wave will then tap into this region here, which is the Y wave target, and that will then complete the 3rd wave. And then in the weeks or months to come, we'll then have the wave 4 play out, followed by a 5th wave to then complete the Y wave. But of course, we need further confirmation for that to take place, and that's something I'm going to be tracking in the days and weeks to come. And here you can see that on the 4-hour chart, we are within the overbought conditions, and so at some point we could potentially see the bears regain control of the market. And what I'm looking at for short term is for the price of XRP to actually, first and foremost, test the 50 EMA, and at the same time break through that level. And if we do so, that would then be a bullish confirmation. And if I quickly go on the 8-hour chart, what you can see is we are within the oversold conditions, and the bulls are now slowly starting to regain momentum. And so I will be looking out for XRP to tap into this region here. And if we were to exceed this region, then that would be a bullish confirmation also. And there's a possibility that we then breach past this local top at $3.66. And we could then potentially tap into this region here to then complete the 5th wave. And so, yeah, that's just my update on XRP. And hopefully you found it useful. And if you did, then feel free to hit that like button. And if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Take it easy, people. Peace.